Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Cain, and here with me today is a man who is integral in a relatively recent quantum discovery. Sir, if you would not mind, please introduce yourself to the audience and also tell us what was your project.
Good afternoon. I am Lynn Evans, and I was the project leader during the construction of the Large Hadron Collider, which is a 27-kilometer ring of superconductors that accelerates protons prior to collision. Construction began in 1995, and I continued to be the project leader until 2008. Among the most prominent reasons behind the LHC was verifying the existence of the Higgs boson particle, which would further prove the existence of the Higgs field, which would be the mechanism behind matter having mass.
Thank you, sir. Now, could you delve deeper into what you were trying to find or do?
Certainly. As mentioned before, we were trying to find the Higgs boson particle. Several decades before, a riddle puzzled particle physicists. Why do particles have mass? The standard model of the day accounted for the electromagnetic, strong, and weak forces in subatomic physics or particle physics by describing different fields in their interaction with specific particles. However, no particle specifically aligned with mass. Instead, several different particles had mass. Higgs proposed a new, very different field as being responsible, and several particles' interactions with this field gave them mass. Proving Higgs' theory required us finding a particle that aligned with his field. Particles, in subatomic terms, are simply clumped up amounts of matter, and we simply had to create a situation in which the energy was great enough for this particle to be created. The Higgs boson particle had a mass of 125 GeV over c squared. Now, putting the units to the side, that is roughly 133 times the mass of a single proton. A particle of that size does not stay together, and a particle of that size does not naturally occur. Now, also, for us to create this particle, we did not only have to send protons flying at each other, but we needed specific parts of the protons to hit each other. Now, to create this interaction of 125 GeV over c squared, each proton had to have an energy of 4 TeV. That would be roughly equivalent to the energy of a mosquito, but shrink down a trillionth of the size into an electron. Energy concentrated at an unimaginable scale. This is what was required to find the Higgs boson particle and was the reason for creating the LHC.
Thank you for your explanations. Now, moving further, where did the project or experiment occur?
Ah, yes. At this point, this feels like home. The experiment that found the Higgs boson particle occurred in 2012 near Geneva, Switzerland, which is the location of CERN and therefore the location of the Large Hadron Collider. I must note that at the time of the experiment, I was no longer the project leader of the LHC. However, I was present for the day of the announcement that the Higgs boson particle was discovered.
It's wonderful to know that you were able to see the fruits of your labors. Now, for context, what other significant events were occurring during the discovery of the Higgs boson particle?
My friend, how young must you be to ask such a question about 2012? Some events that occurred during that time include the landing of the Mars rover Curiosity. It had landed and started sending data back to Earth, a major leap in astronomical studies. I vividly I also vividly remember how smartphones became prevalent in that day. Over half of Europeans had a smartphone by 2012. Another major event was the Doudna Charpentier paper for CRISPR. Essentially, great leaps had been made in gene editing science. All of these occurring at the same time the Higgs boson particle was discovered. It truly was an incredible year.
I still am. Now, if I may ask, who else was involved in the LHC and in the discovery of the Higgs boson?
Well, in a project as large as the Large Hadron Collider, thousands of scientists, physicists, and engineers, even technicians, are dedicated to the construction and purpose of such a device. Two other major leaders, however, were Peter Jenny and Tejinder Virdi. Now, Peter Jenny led the development of the Atlas, while Virdi oversaw CMS, both of these being two different detector instruments, two different detecting systems inside the Large Hadron Collider. Both of these detected the Higgs boson particle in entirely different ways, further verifying our discovery. Peter Higgs himself was also very involved, he being the one that predicted the particle. Also, he was there for the announcement of the Higgs boson particle. It is amazing that he was able to see it during his lifetime.
So, after considering others' roles, what was your role in the project?
My friend, though you did not ask that specific question, I believe I already gave you that information. I was project leader of the Large Hadron Collider, specifically from 1995 to 2008 during its construction and first days of operation.
Fair enough, sir. Now, what impact did your discovery have on the scientific community?
The impact of this project, first and foremost, was that it solved another piece of the puzzle in modern physics. Finding the Higgs boson particle confirmed that the Higgs mechanism gives subatomic particles mass. This settled a decades-long question as to why objects can have mass in the first place. Though this is remarkable and fundamental, this knowledge had no direct applications in industry and still does not to this day. However, the technology developed during and for the Large Hadron Collider has been used elsewhere in science, such as superconducting magnets, cryogenics, and advanced computing. The amount of data that goes through the Large Hadron Collider every year is absolutely astounding.
It's fascinating to see with how many areas of science you are connected just because of the construction of the Large Hadron Collider. Now, if you could tell one other person from history about this discovery, who would it be?
Putting any personal connections to the side, I would tell Albert Einstein of this discovery. At the time of his death, he was trying to make a unified field theory, putting together these different fields found in quantum theory and make a singular basis off of all of them. Though his focus was on gravity and connections to quantum mechanics, presenting him information regarding the Higgs field would have further bolstered his studies, even though they might not have been directly connected.
Dr. Evans, thank you so much for your time, knowledge, and your memories. This has been an insightful discussion, and I hope that we have more chances to do this in the future.
It would be my deepest pleasure. Thank you for your interest.